Welcome back, everyone. This is an original story from Hidden Revenge Family, and it took a turn you truly didn't see coming. Let's get into it.
The metal clasp snapped with a sharp click right in the middle of my father's backyard barbecue. 1 second, the leather leash was in my hand. The next, it wasn't. Chelsea didn't ask. She didn't hesitate. She just reached across the table like she was grabbing a glass of wine and yanked it out of my grip. Titan reacted before anyone else did. He dropped into a sit so fast it looked rehearsed. His body went still, muscles tight under his coat, ears forward. He didn't look at Chelsea. He didn't look at anyone else. He locked eyes with me, waiting. The smell of grilled steak hung in the air. Someone laughed on the other side of the patio, not realizing what just happened. Ice clinked in glasses. Bradley was mid-story, smiling like he owned the place. Chelsea held the leash like it belonged to her, like she'd always had it. "Relax," she said, flicking her wrist like she was shaking off water. "It's just a dog." Titan didn't move. Good, I didn't say anything yet. I didn't reach for the leash either. Chelsea had always been like this. If something looked valuable, she assumed it was hers. Growing up, it was my clothes. Then it was my car. Now it was my partner. She'd just moved into her new place with Bradley. Place wasn't the right word. It was a glass and stone mansion 20 minutes outside the city, with a gated driveway and a view she made sure to film from every angle. Her Instagram had turned into a real estate ad, overnight. Champagne by the pool, designer furniture, Bradley in a suit that probably cost more than my monthly pay. What she didn't have was a guard dog. And apparently buying one wasn't as exciting as stealing one. Bradley leaned back in his chair, watching like this was entertainment. "That thing trained?" he asked, nodding at Titan. Chelsea smiled, already performing. "Of course, he's perfect." Titan's eyes flicked back to me for half a second. Still waiting. "Sit," Chelsea said, tugging lightly on the leash like she was testing him. He didn't move. Her smile tightened. "Sit." Nothing. I took a sip of my drink. Let the silence stretch. Chelsea laughed, but it sounded forced. "He'll learn. Dogs always do." That's when Gregory stepped in. My father didn't rush. He never did. He walked over like he'd already decided how this was going to end. "Chelsea's right," he said, calm, controlled. "That animal belongs somewhere it can be properly used." I looked at him. Properly used. He reached into the inside pocket of his jacket and pulled out a folded document. Of course he did. He always came prepared when he wanted control. "I had this reviewed," he continued, handing it toward me but not quite letting go. "Medical clearance, or lack of it." I didn't take the paper. "Post-deployment psychological instability." He read aloud like he was announcing something official. "Recommendation not fit for animal handling responsibility." Chelsea tilted her head, pretending to be concerned. "Oh my God, is that why you've been like this?" I almost smiled. Gregory finally released the paper, letting it drop onto the table in front of me. "You're not in a position to take care of anything right now, Samantha, let alone a working animal." Working animal? That was closer to the truth than he realized. Bradley leaned forward, elbows on the table. "Sounds serious," he said. "Wouldn't want a liability." There it was, liability, not loyalty, not training, not service. Just liability. I glanced down at the paper. Didn't touch it. Didn't need to. Fake. Sloppy. Whoever they paid didn't even bother matching the formatting to actual military medical reports. Chelsea stepped closer to Titan, running her hand down his back like she was already posing for a photo. "I'll take him," she said lightly. "Our place needs security anyway." And honestly, she looked at me, lips curling into that familiar smirk. "You can barely take care of yourself, Samantha." There it was, the line she'd been waiting to deliver. Around us, conversation started to quiet down. People were listening now, watching. Chelsea tightened her grip on the leash like she expected a fight, like she wanted one. I didn't give it to her. I let my fingers loosen. The leather slid out of my hand without resistance. Titan's ears twitched. He didn't move. I met Chelsea's eyes. Really looked at her this time. She thought she'd won something. "Good," she said, satisfied. "That's what I thought." She gave the leash a little shake like she was testing ownership. Titan stayed exactly where he was, not confused, not stressed, waiting. I finally spoke, my voice low enough that she had to focus to hear it. "That's not a pet, Chelsea." She rolled her eyes. "Please. It's a dog." I shook my head once. "You picked up the wrong thing." She laughed. A short, sharp sound. "No, I picked up exactly what I wanted." Bradley smirked. Gregory said nothing, but I could see it in his face. He thought this was handled. Done. Chelsea turned slightly angling Titan toward the house, like she was already imagining how this would look online. Come on, she said, tugging the leash. Titan didn't move. Not yet. He was still looking at me, still waiting for a command I hadn't given. I let the silence sit for one more second. Then I looked at him and gave a small, almost invisible nod. At ease. Not follow, not engage, just hold. His posture shifted just enough that only someone trained would notice. Chelsea didn't. She was too busy winning. See, she said over her shoulder. He's already listening. I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I picked up my drink again like none of this mattered. Like she hadn't just crossed a line she didn't understand. Like my father hadn't just backed her up with a forged document. Like Bradley wasn't sitting there thinking he'd just upgraded his security system for free. They all thought this was about a dog. They all thought paperwork meant control. They all thought taking something was the same as owning it. Chelsea gave the leash another pull a little harder this time. Titan stood up slowly. Not because of her, because of me. Because I hadn't told him to do anything else. She smiled satisfied and started walking toward the house. He followed one step behind. Posture tight, eyes still scanning. Not hers, never hers. I watched them go. Watched my sister parade a federal asset across a patio like it was a designer accessory. Watched my father sit back down like he'd just solved a problem. Watched Bradley check his phone, already bored. No one asked me anything. No one wondered why I wasn't reacting. That was the part that always got them. They expected noise. They expected emotion. They didn't understand quiet. I set my glass down and stood up. Enjoy the dog, I said, just loud enough for Chelsea to hear as she reached the door. She turned, that same smirk still in place. Oh, I will, I nodded once. I know, because this wasn't over. It hadn't even started. Have you ever watched someone take something from you thinking they'd won, while you already knew exactly how it was going to end? The faint clink of the leash chain against Chelsea's bracelet echoed in my head, and a second later it blended seamlessly into the steady, precise clicking of a mechanical keyboard under my fingers. The glow from my monitor lit up my face, while the rest of the office stayed dark. I didn't turn the overhead lights on. Didn't need them. Everything I cared about was on the screen. A single red dot pulsed on a digital map, steady and precise like a heartbeat you couldn't ignore. Titan. I leaned back in my chair, one hand resting near the keyboard, the other holding a cup of coffee I hadn't touched in 10 minutes. No panic, no anger, no dramatic reaction. Just data. That's the difference between losing something and tracking it. People like Chelsea think possession is physical. You hold the leash, you own the dog. That's cute. On my screen, Titan wasn't a pet. He was an active federal asset, tagged, monitored, and logged into a system that didn't care about family dinners or fake paperwork. I tapped a key, pulling up his full profile. Designation K-9 Unit Special Operations Support, Affiliation Department of Defense, Valuation $80,000, Rank Equivalent Chief Warrant Officer, 3CW3. I let that sit for a second. Chelsea didn't steal a dog. She walked off with a federal officer. I took another sip of coffee finally and opened the live telemetry panel. Heart rate, respiratory data, body temperature, movement patterns, all normal, for now. Or, the tracker wasn't some cheap collar device you could cut off. It was embedded under the skin, surgically placed, encrypted, and linked directly into a restricted network. You don't just lose something like that, you monitor it. And if something goes wrong, you respond. The red dot shifted slightly, then stabilized again. I zoomed in. The map transitioned from city view to property layout, satellite overlay, structural outlines. Bradley's new mansion popped into full detail: glass, stone, overpriced landscaping, and beneath it I adjusted the layer settings. There it was, a basement, large, reinforced. Interesting. I rested my elbow on the desk and watched the dot sit perfectly still, right over that underground space. Of course, I muttered. Chelsea didn't need a guard dog. She needed a prop. Bradley needed something else. I pulled up Titan's training logs, scrolling through months of deployment records. Explosives detection, currency tracking, narcotics identification, high accuracy, low error rate. He wasn't trained to bark at delivery drivers. He was trained to find things people try to hide. I leaned forward slightly, eyes narrowing at the screen. The red dot pulsed again, steady, calm, then it spiked. A sharp change in the telemetry panel caught my attention. Heart rate 140 beats per minute. I stopped moving. That wasn't random. Titan didn't stress easily. He'd been through environments that would break most people. This wasn't fear. This was a trigger. I pulled up the behavioral response chart, already knowing what I'd see. Alert mode activated. I exhaled slowly, setting the coffee down. Okay, I said under my breath. Now we're getting somewhere. Alert mode meant one thing: Titan had detected something within his trained parameters. Something significant. Explosives. Large quantities of cash. Chemical compounds tied to narcotics. He wasn't reacting to Chelsea. He wasn't reacting to noise. He was reacting to something specific. And he wasn't moving. The red dot stayed locked in place. Basement level, Bradley's house. I zoomed in further, isolating the exact position. Centered. Not near an entrance. Not near a hallway. Dead center of the underground space. Which meant whatever he was detecting, it wasn't small. I leaned back again, letting the pieces line up. Chelsea dragging him around the house, trying to make him perform. Titan ignoring her, refusing food, scratching at a specific door. A door she couldn't open, because it wasn't hers. My jaw tightened slightly. Not a guard dog, I said quietly. A sensor. Bradley didn't want protection. He wanted early warning. I pulled up property records, cross-referencing ownership and recent permits. Renovation approved 6 months ago. Sub-level expansion. No detailed disclosures. Convenient. I clicked over to another system, running Bradley's name through internal flags. Nothing official. That didn't mean clean. That meant careful. People like him don't get caught because they're sloppy. They get caught because they think they're smarter than everyone else. I looked back at the red dot. Still pulsing, still steady, still right where it shouldn't be. Chelsea thought she'd taken something from me. What she actually did was move a classified asset directly into the center of whatever Bradley was hiding. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. I opened a secure note and started typing, logging timestamps, behavior changes, location data. No assumptions, just facts. That's how cases get built. Not with emotion, with patterns. Titan's heart rate dropped slightly, stabilizing again. Alert mode sustained. He'd found something, and now he was holding, waiting, just like he was trained to do. I checked the time. Late. Most of the building was empty. A few lights on in distant offices. The low hum of systems running in the background. I didn't need a team yet. Not yet. Right now this was observation, confirmation. Let them get comfortable. Let them think nothing's wrong. That's when people make mistakes. I leaned forward again, resting my forearms on the desk, eyes fixed on the screen. You really walked into this one, I said quietly. Not to Titan, to them. Chelsea with her smirk. Bradley with his money. Gregory with his paper shield. They all thought this was a family issue. Something small, something contained. They had no idea what they'd just stepped into. Because once a federal asset is compromised, it's not personal anymore. It's procedural. And procedure doesn't care who your father is. The red dot blinked again. Steady, patient. I stayed there for a while, watching it, letting the silence do its job. No rushing, no reacting. Just waiting for the next piece to fall into place. Because it always does. And when it does, you don't chase it. You let it come to you. I reached for the keyboard again, pulling up a secondary alert configurations. Setting thresholds for any sudden changes in vitals or movement. If Titan moved fast, I'd know. If something happened, I'd know. If they tried anything stupid, I'd definitely know. I finally shut the system down to standby, not off, just enough to keep everything running in the background. The red dot stayed, always there, always watching. I stood up, grabbed my jacket, and headed for the door. No urgency, no stress, just another night, because the real work doesn't start when something gets taken. It starts when people think they got away with it. The next morning, the sharp blink of a red alert light on my desk phone cut through the quiet before I even had a chance to sit down. The phone rang before I even sat down, and I picked it up on the second ring. Finally, Chelsea snapped, her voice already sharp enough to cut through steel. What the hell did you do to this dog? I didn't answer right away. I set my bag down, reached for the keyboard, and woke up my system with a quick tap. The red dot blinked back at me. Still in the basement, still steady, he won't eat. She continued, her tone climbing. I bought him organic food, expensive stuff. He won't touch it. I pulled up Titan's vitals. Stable, no signs of distress, no drop in energy. He was eating, just not for her. And he doesn't bark, she added, frustration bleeding into every word. Do you know how stupid that looks? A guard dog that doesn't bark when someone comes to the door? I leaned back in my chair, phone tucked between my shoulder and ear, eyes still on the screen. That's because he's not a guard dog, I said. She ignored that completely. And don't even get me started on the door, she snapped. He's been clawing at this door all night. Do you know how much that door costs? $5,000. Solid oak. Imported. My eyes flicked to the exact coordinates again. Basement access point. Of course, I could almost picture it. Titan stationed in front of that door, focused, persistent, doing exactly what he was trained to do. Detect, indicate, hold. Chelsea thought it was bad behavior. It wasn't. It was precision. He won't stop, she went on. It's like he's obsessed with it. Bradley is losing his mind. I bet he is. I opened a side panel and started logging her statements without telling her. Time, complaint, behavioral notes. People love giving you evidence when they think they're venting. Then maybe you should open the door, I said calmly. There was a brief pause. Excuse me if he keeps going back to the same place. There's a reason. Another pause, longer this time. Then a scoff. Oh my God, you're unbelievable. There's nothing down there. It's a storage space. Sure. Then you've got nothing to worry about, I said. She didn't like that. I could hear it in the way her breathing changed. Fast, irritated. This isn't funny, Samantha, she snapped. You gave me a defective dog. I almost corrected her again. Didn't bother. He's not defective, I said. He's doing his job. Her laugh came out sharp and loud. His job? His job is to make my house look secure, and he's failing at that. There it was, finally honest. I typed another note. Intent appearance over function. Listen carefully, she said, lowering her voice like she thought that made her sound more serious. You're going to sign the transfer papers. Today. I didn't respond. I clicked over to a document already queued up on my system. A federal statute. Just waiting. I'm not dealing with this anymore, she continued. I'll hire someone to retrain him properly. Someone who knows what they're doing. I could imagine it. Some private trainer trying to fix a dog that outranked him. That would go well. And if you don't sign, she added each word slow and deliberate, I will take him to a shelter and have him put down. I stopped typing, not because I was shocked. Because she finally said something useful. I adjusted the phone slightly against my shoulder and hit print. The machine beside me came to life, spitting out page after page. You don't get to ignore me, she snapped when I didn't answer immediately. Do you understand what I'm saying? The printer kept going. Steady, mechanical, precise, just like everything else that actually mattered. I understand, I said. Good, she replied, a hint of satisfaction creeping back into her voice. Then we're clear. Another page slid out. I picked up the stack, aligning the edges with a quick tap against the desk. You can't euthanize a soldier, Captain. Silence. Real silence this time. Not confusion, not irritation, just a gap where her brain tried to catch up and failed. Then she laughed, loud, mocking. Wow, she said. You've officially lost it. I didn't react. You really think calling a dog a soldier is going to scare me, she went on. Sign the papers, Samantha, or I will get rid of it myself. I flipped to the first page of the document in my hand. U.S. Code Title 18, Section 1368. Clear, direct. No room for interpretation. You should be careful with your wording, I said, my voice even. Threats involving federal assets tend to carry consequences. Oh, please, she snapped. Stop pretending you're important. Important. That word again. People like Chelsea think importance is volume, visibility, followers. They don't understand quiet authority. I'll give you until tonight, she said. After that, I'm done asking. I didn't argue, didn't negotiate, didn't raise my voice. Do what you think is right, I said. She exhaled sharply, annoyed that I wasn't reacting the way she wanted. You always do this, she said. You think staying calm makes you better than everyone. No, it just makes me harder to read. Tonight, Samantha, she repeated. Then the line went dead. The click echoed for half a second before the room went quiet again. I lowered the phone slowly and set it back in place. No rush, no emotion, just information. They thought a piece of paper could override training, override loyalty, override command. They were wrong, because loyalty in a K-9 unit doesn't come from ownership, it comes from orders. I looked back at the stack of documents in my hand. Legal framework, jurisdiction, enforcement authority, everything clean, everything ready, no drama, just process. I reached for a folder and slid the papers inside, closing it with a soft snap. That's when the door behind me slammed open, hard, wood hitting the wall with enough force to shake the frame. I didn't turn around immediately, didn't need to. I already knew who it was. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the glass behind me, and Gregory walked in like he still owned the building. He didn't. But no one had told him that yet. I stayed where I was, one hand resting on the folder I'd just closed, eyes still on the monitor for a second longer before I finally turned. He looked exactly the same. Pressed uniform, clean lines, not a single detail out of place. Retired but still dressed like rank followed him around. His face, though, gave it away. Tight, controlled, angry, not loud anger, the kind that expects obedience. "You didn't answer your phone," he said. "I did," I replied. He ignored that. Of course he did. His eyes swept the office once, quick and dismissive, like he was evaluating whether I'd done anything worth acknowledging. Then he stepped forward and dropped a folded document onto my desk. "Same move as yesterday, different setting, same assumption. Sign it," he said. "No greeting, no small talk, just orders." I didn't reach for the paper, didn't even look at it. "I'm working," I said. "You're done working on this," he snapped, tapping the document with 2 fingers. "This situation ends today." I leaned back in my chair slightly, just enough to create space. "For you," I said. His jaw tightened. "For this family," he corrected. There it was again. Family, the word he used when he wanted control. The word he used when he needed compliance. I didn't react. He took a step closer, lowering his voice. "I've already spoken to people at the Pentagon," he said. "Old contacts, people who still respect my name." I almost smiled. Respect. Another word that gets thrown around too easily. "They're very interested in your current condition," he continued. "Your instability." There it was, the fake diagnosis, the paper shield, post-deployment issues, he added. Emotional volatility, questionable judgment. I glanced at the document on the desk. Still didn't touch it. "Sounds serious," I said. "It is serious," he snapped. "Serious enough to end your career if I decide to push it." He let that sit, watching me for a reaction. Waiting for the shift, the hesitation, the fear. Didn't get it. "I can have your clearance reviewed," he went on. "Your rank stripped. Your position reassigned. You won't be working cases, you'll be lucky if you're filing paperwork somewhere. No one has to deal with you." He leaned in slightly, voice dropping even lower. "All of that goes away if you sign the paper. Simple, clean, controlled." That's how he liked it. I reached for my keyboard and tapped a key, waking the monitor fully. The red dot blinked back at me. Still in the basement, still steady. Gregory followed my gaze for a second, then dismissed it. "Focus," he said sharply. "This is more important." I looked back at him. "No," I said. One word, flat. His expression didn't change immediately. Then it did. Slow, controlled, dangerous. "You don't get to say no," he said. "I just did." He straightened up, exhaling through his nose like he was resetting his patience. "This attitude," he said, gesturing vaguely at me, "this is exactly what I'm talking about. You think you're above structure, above authority." "No," I said. "Just above this." I nodded once toward the paper. That did it. He slammed his hand down on the desk, the sound echoing through the room. "Sign it," he barked. "This family does not tolerate insubordination." I didn't flinch. Didn't raise my voice. Didn't match his energy. "That's not a family rule," I said calmly. "That's your rule." His eyes narrowed. "And it's the only one that matters," he shot back. To him it was, always had been. He pushed the document closer to me, the edge of it sliding across the desk. "Kitty," he said, slipping into Vietnamese for just a second like that made it more final. "There is no place in this family for a disobedient child." I looked at the paper, finally, not to read it, just to acknowledge it existed. Then I reached down, opened the drawer beside me, and pulled out a different document. Printed, clean, official. I placed it on the desk between us and slid it forward. He frowned slightly, not expecting that. "What is this?" he asked. "Read it," I said. He glanced down. U.S. Code Title 18. Section 1368. His eyes moved across the first few lines, and I watched the exact moment recognition started to creep in. Not full understanding, not yet, just discomfort. Intentional harm, theft, or interference with federal law enforcement animals, he read slowly. His voice lost a little of its edge. Felony offense, I added. Multiple counts depending on how creative the prosecutor feels. He looked up at me. This is irrelevant, he said quickly. That animal is a federal asset I cut in, active duty. He shook his head once dismissive. It's a dog. I leaned forward slightly, resting my forearms on the desk. It's a CW3, I said. That stopped him. Not completely, but enough. He blinked once, processing. Don't play games, he said. I'm not, I replied. I tapped the document once with my finger. You can call whoever you want at the Pentagon, I continued. But when you do, make sure you tell them you assisted in the unlawful seizure of a federal officer. Silence. Real silence this time. The kind that fills the room and doesn't leave space for anything else. He stared at me, trying to find the angle, trying to find the bluff. There wasn't one. That useless dog you handed to Chelsea. I said, my voice still calm, still level. It currently outranks you, Brigadier General. The title landed, hard. I watched his face shift. Red, then pale, then something in between that didn't have a name. His posture changed just slightly, not enough for most people to notice. Enough for me. That's not possible, he said, but there was no conviction behind it. It is, I said. And now it's documented. He looked back down at the paper, reading faster this time, looking for a way out. There wasn't one. You're exaggerating, he muttered. I'm being polite, I corrected. Another silence, longer this time, the kind that stretches until someone breaks it. He didn't. Neither did I, because this wasn't a negotiation. This was information. Eventually, he straightened up again, but the sharp edge was gone, replaced with something tighter. Controlled damage. This isn't over, he said. No, I agreed. It's not. He hesitated for a fraction of a second, then grabbed the fake document off my desk and folded it back up. Didn't offer it again. Didn't repeat the order. He turned and walked out without another word, the door closing behind him, with a lot less force than it opened. I sat there for a moment, letting the quiet settle back in. Then I looked at the monitor again. The red dot blinked, steady, waiting, just like everything else. Because pressure doesn't end situations like this. It reveals them. And now they knew. Not everything. Just enough. Enough to panic. Enough to make mistakes. I closed the folder in front of me and stood up, grabbing my jacket. No rush. No urgency. Just timing. Because the next move wasn't mine. It was theirs. And I already knew where they'd be in 2 days. The soft swell of orchestral music filled the grand hall as I stepped into the Army Gala, right on schedule. Crystal chandeliers lit the entire hall like a showroom, and Chelsea walked right through the center of it like she belonged there. She didn't. But she played the part well. High heels, perfect posture, that same polished smile she used in every photo. And in her hand, wrapped in a leash that looked more like jewelry than equipment, was Titan. Bradley walked beside her, shaking hands, nodding at people who mattered just enough to notice him. Defense contractors, officers, people who actually understood what rank meant. Or at least they used to. Chelsea slowed her pace slightly, letting Titan come into full view of the group she was approaching. Security upgrade, she said with a light laugh, giving the leash a small, showy tug. We figured it was time. A few polite nods, 1 or 2 impressed looks. On the surface, it worked. From a distance, Titan looked exactly like what she wanted him to be. Big, controlled, expensive. But up close, he wasn't looking at her. Not once. His tail stayed low. His body moved with clean, measured steps, not the loose, casual energy of a pet. Every movement was controlled, efficient. He ignored her hand when she tried to stroke his neck, ignored the leash, ignored the room, because none of it mattered. Chelsea didn't notice. She was too focused on being seen. "That's a Belgian Malinois, right?" one of the men asked, studying Titan more carefully. "Yeah," Bradley answered quickly, stepping in like he knew what he was talking about. Top-tier training. Titan's ears twitched slightly. Not at Bradley, at something else. Chelsea laughed again. "He's still adjusting," she added. "A little stubborn, but we'll fix that. You don't fix training like his. You either understand it, or you get exposed by it." Across the room, I stepped inside. No gown, no sparkle, Class A uniform, clean, precise, exactly how it's supposed to be worn. The difference was immediate. Not loud, not dramatic, but real. A few heads turned. Conversations shifted slightly. The tone in the room changed just enough to matter, because people like Chelsea perform authority. People like me carry it. I didn't rush, didn't head straight toward them. I just walked. Calm, measured, controlled. And then Titan saw me. It wasn't obvious to anyone else. Just a slight shift, a micro adjustment in posture. His focus snapped. Not to the room, not to Chelsea. To me. Chelsea felt it. She looked down at him confused for half a second, then followed his line of sight. And saw me. Her entire expression changed. Not subtle, not controlled. Panic, real panic. Her hand tightened around the leash, instantly knuckles going white. "Oh my God," she said loudly, turning toward the people around her. "That's her," heads turned. Now everyone was looking. "That's my sister," she continued, voice rising just enough to pull attention. "She's been harassing me all week trying to take my dog." There it was, the story, simple, clean, completely wrong. "She's not stable," Chelsea added quickly, shaking her head like she hated even saying it. "She's had issues since deployment." Bradley stepped forward immediately, placing himself between us like that meant something. "You need to leave," he said under his breath, teeth clenched. "Right now." I didn't look at him. Didn't acknowledge him at all, because he wasn't relevant. Not to me, not to the situation. He shifted slightly, trying to block my line of sight. Didn't work. Nothing about him mattered enough to interrupt what I was doing. "If you don't walk out," he continued louder. "Now, I'll have military police escort you out of here." That got a few reactions. People stepping back slightly, waiting to see what happens next. They expected an argument, a scene, something messy. I didn't give them that. I stopped walking, 5 meters from Titan, perfect distance, far enough to be controlled. Close enough to matter. I stood still, straight posture, shoulders square, no tension, no emotion, just presence. Chelsea's grip tightened again, pulling the leash slightly as if that would keep control. It wouldn't, not even close. Titan didn't look at her, didn't react to the pressure. His entire focus stayed locked on me, waiting. The room went quieter, not silent, but close enough. I took a slow breath in. No rush, no hesitation. Then I spoke, clear, sharp, controlled. "Titan," one word. That's all it took to lock him in. Then the command followed. "Pass off, protect." It cut through the room like it didn't belong there, because it didn't, not in a place like this, not in a room full of people pretending. And for a fraction of a second, nothing happened. That's the part people misunderstand. They think commands are instant reactions. They're not, they're decisions. Titan made his in less than a heartbeat. Bradley opened his mouth ready to say something else. He never got the chance, because the sound that came out of Titan's throat didn't belong in a ballroom. Low, deep, controlled, not loud, not wild, just enough to stop everything. A growl that carried weight, real weight. Bradley froze mid-sentence. Chelsea's hand jerked on the leash, instinct kicking in too late. The entire room felt it. That shift. That moment where control changes hands and everyone knows it, even if they don't understand why. I didn't move, didn't repeat the command, didn't raise my voice, because I didn't need to. Titan had already decided. And when he decides, no one else gets a vote. The music cut off like someone pulled the plug and every head in the room turned at the same time. No one spoke. No one moved. They were all watching the same thing. Titan. The shift happened in less than a second. One moment he was still. The next, the leash snapped tight, then slack. Chelsea didn't even understand what she felt in her hand before it was gone. Titan tore free with a clean, controlled motion. No chaos, no wasted movement, just force. He closed the distance in a single burst and stopped directly in front of me, positioning his body between me and them. Not touching me, not leaning, just blocking. That's what protect looks like. His posture changed completely, every muscle engaged, fur raised along his back, head low, eyes locked. Not on me, on them. Chelsea and Bradley. The growl deepened. Not louder, just heavier. The kind of sound that doesn't ask for attention. It takes it. Chelsea screamed, high, sharp, completely out of control. She stumbled backward, heels slipping against the polished marble arms, flailing for balance that wasn't there. She hit the floor hard. The leash still wrapped around her wrist clattered uselessly against the ground. Bradley froze. Not stepping forward, not stepping back, just stuck. Because this wasn't a situation he could talk his way out of. This wasn't a deal. This was reality. And it didn't care about his money. "Control your dog," he barked, but his voice cracked halfway through. I didn't answer. I didn't move. I didn't need to. Titan wasn't out of control. He was exactly where he was supposed to be. Gregory pushed through the crowd, his composure gone for the first time since I'd seen him. What is this? He snapped, then saw Titan's stance, and his face changed instantly. Fear, real fear. Shoot it, he shouted, turning toward the nearest uniform. That animal is dangerous. Shoot it. The word shoot echoed louder than anything else in the room, and for a split second, everyone held their breath. Then boots hit the floor. Fast, coordinated, armed. Military police moved in from both sides of the hall, weapons ready, formation tight. This was the part Chelsea expected. This was the version of reality she believed in. Authority shows up, authority fixes things, authority removes the problem. She pushed herself up slightly from the floor, clutching at the leash like it still meant something. Do something, she cried, voice shaking. That thing attacked me. Titan didn't even glance at her. His focus stayed locked forward, stable, controlled, waiting. The MP team closed in. 1 step, 2, 3, weapons up. And then they stopped. Not because of Titan, because of me, the officer in front. Captain Rank stepped forward, lowering his weapon before anyone else did. He looked at Titan first, then at me, then he straightened. Clean, precise, automatic. His hand came up in a sharp salute. Area secured agent, he said. Not loud, not dramatic, just official. The shift in the room was immediate. Confusion, shock, disbelief. Gregory blinked once like he'd misheard something. What are you doing? He demanded. I said shoot the dog. No one moved. No one even looked at him. The rest of the MP unit followed the captain's lead, lowering their weapons in unison. Not relaxed, just redirected. Gregory stepped forward, anger snapping back into place. Are you deaf? He barked. That animal just attacked my daughter. The captain didn't respond, didn't even acknowledge him, because he didn't have to. Someone else did. A figure moved through the crowd, slow and deliberate, the kind of presence that clears space without asking for it. The base commander, full uniform, decorations that actually meant something, eyes that didn't waste time. He stopped a few feet from Gregory and looked at him like he was trying to decide how much patience to use. Repeat that, the commander said. Gregory turned toward him, immediately relief flashing across his face. Finally, he said, Order your men to detain her. She's out of control, and that dog. The commander raised one hand. Gregory stopped talking. Not because he wanted to, because he understood the signal. You're asking me, the commander said slowly, to arrest a CID agent who is actively conducting an operation. So you can protect 2 civilians who just interfered with a federal asset. Silence, not the quiet from before, heavier, sharper. Gregory opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. That's not, he started. That's exactly what it is, the commander cut in. No raised voice, no anger, just facts. The kind you don't argue with. Chelsea was still on the floor looking between them, like she was trying to understand a language she didn't speak. This is insane, she said weakly. It's just a dog. No, I said. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't step forward, just spoke. And that was enough. Every eye shifted back to me. It's not, I continued. Chelsea stared at me, her expression finally cracking. Not anger, not arrogance. Just confusion, because for the first time, her version of the story didn't match reality. Bradley finally moved, stepping back half a pace without realizing it. Distance. Instinct. The smart part of his brain trying to catch up. Titan adjusted his stance slightly, tracking the movement, growl steady but controlled. No escalation, no attack. Just pressure. The kind that makes people think twice. Gregory looked between the commander, the MPs, and me, searching for control that wasn't there anymore. You're making a mistake, he said. But the confidence was gone. The commander didn't respond. Didn't need to. Because the situation had already decided itself. Chelsea pushed herself up to her knees, her voice breaking now. Make him stop, she said, looking at me. Just call him off. I watched her for a second. Then I looked down at Titan, still locked in, still perfect, still mine. Hold, I said quietly. He didn't move, didn't relax, but the growl shifted, less threat, more warning, controlled, measured, exactly how it's supposed to be. Chelsea froze, because she finally understood something. Not everything, just enough. That she was never in control. Not of him, not of this, not of anything happening in that room. The illusion cracked, and once that happens, It doesn't come back. Bradley's phone buzzed, once, then again, loud enough in the silence to matter. He looked down at it, irritation flashing across his face. Then confusion, then something else. Something tighter. He pulled it out, glanced at the screen, and everything changed. The color drained from his face so fast, it looked like someone flipped a switch. The alert on Bradley's phone lined up perfectly with the distant wail of sirens, faint at first, then rising just enough to be real. Not imagination, not coincidence, timing. He stared at the screen like it might change if he looked long enough. It didn't. The notifications kept stacking, one after another, fast, urgent, red. "What is that?" Chelsea asked, her voice shaky, still on her knees. Bradley didn't answer. Couldn't. Because whatever he was reading wasn't something you explain out loud in a room like this. I stepped forward, not fast, not aggressive, just enough to shift the center of attention. Titan stayed exactly where he was, still between me and them, posture-locked eyes, tracking Bradley now. "Good. Do you want to know why he wouldn't stop scratching your basement door?" I asked. No one interrupted. No one moved. Because they all knew something was coming. And this time it wasn't a guess. "It's not behavior," I said. "It's detection." Bradley's head snapped up. "Too late. He's trained to identify explosives, narcotics, and large quantities of currency." I continued, my voice carrying just enough to reach the edges of the room. "And when he locks onto a source, he holds." Chelsea shook her head weakly. No, there's nothing down there." I didn't look at her. I didn't need to. I raised one hand slightly. The MP captain nodded once and turned. A technician near the back of the hall moved immediately, connecting a secure feed to the main display mounted above the stage. The screen flickered once, then came to life. Live video, black uniforms, tactical gear, controlled movement, FBI, CID inside Bradley's house, or what used to be his safe space. The camera angle shifted as a breaching team moved down a narrow stairwell. Reinforced walls, heavy door, locked. Not for long. "Breach," someone said over the comms. A sharp charge, a flash. The door blew inward. The room went completely silent. On screen, the team flooded the basement. Flashlights cut through the dark, sweeping across the space. Then they stopped. Not because they hit resistance, because they found exactly what they were looking for. Stacks, neat, organized, bundled, cash, a lot of it. "Jesus," someone in the room whispered. The camera zoomed slightly, markings visible, federal funds, veteran support allocations, gone, redirected, hidden. I watched Bradley's face. Not panic, not yet. This was the moment where denial fights for control. "Those aren't mine," he said quickly, too quickly. This is wrong." No one responded, because the feed kept going. Agents moved deeper into the room, opening cases, scanning documents, folders, hard drives, shipment logs. One agent held up a sheet, reading quickly into the comms. Logistics routing, classified supply chains, unauthorized transfers, military, black market. That's when it hit him, not all at once, piece by piece. The kind of realization that doesn't explode, it collapses. Bradley took a step back, then another. His breathing changed, faster now, less controlled. "This is a setup," he said, louder this time. "You did this." I didn't answer, didn't argue, because the evidence was doing all the work. Chelsea stared at the screen, her face completely drained. "That's not real," she whispered. That can't be real, but it was. And everyone in the room knew it. The commander didn't move. The MPs didn't speak. No one rushed in. Because this part had already been decided. Bradley looked around the room like he was searching for an exit that wasn't there. People were stepping back now. Distance, instinct again. No one wants to stand too close to someone who's about to go down. His eyes landed on the nearest side door, unlocked, unwatched. For now, that's all it took. He turned, fast, not smooth, not planned, just panic, and he ran, not far. Didn't get the chance. Fast, one word, sharp, clean, final. Titan moved. No hesitation, no warning, just motion, fast enough that most people didn't even process it until it was over. He closed the distance in a straight line, low and precise. Impact. Bradley hit the ground hard, air knocked out of him in a single controlled takedown. Titan adjusted, instantly shifting his weight, pinning him face down against the marble floor. No thrashing, No chaos, just pressure. Perfect placement. His jaws hovered inches from Bradley's throat. Not biting, not tearing, just there. A reminder. Bradley didn't move. Couldn't. His body locked under the weight breath, shallow panic finally breaking through. Get it off me, he choked. Get it off, I didn't move. Didn't repeat the command, because I didn't need to. Titan wasn't finished until I said he was. Chelsea let out a sound that didn't even qualify as a scream anymore. She collapsed forward completely, hands hitting the floor, as she started crying. Not controlled, not performative, real, messy. I didn't know, she sobbed. I swear I didn't know. I believed her. It didn't matter. 2 MPs stepped forward, now fast but controlled, weapons holstered. No urgency, no fear. They'd seen this before. One of them dropped to a knee beside Bradley, pulling his arms back. Cold metal clicked into place. Once, then again, clean, final. Suspect secured, the MP said. Titan didn't move. Still holding, still perfect. I stepped forward slowly, stopping just behind him. Out, I said. He released immediately, no delay, no extra pressure. He stepped back and returned to my side posture, shifting back to neutral like nothing had happened. That's control, that's training, that's command. Bradley stayed on the floor, breathing hard, face turned to the side cheek, pressed against stone that probably cost more than most people's rent. Didn't matter now. None of it did. Chelsea's crying filled the space for a second, then got drowned out by the sound of the cuffs locking tighter as they pulled Bradley to his feet. The red and blue lights washed across the glass walls as Bradley was dragged out, and for the first time all night, no one in the room tried to talk over it. No music, no conversation, just the reflection of consequences moving across faces that weren't ready for it. The doors opened, closed. And just like that, Bradley was gone, not escorted, removed. The silence he left behind was heavier than anything he brought with him. Chelsea stayed on the floor. She wasn't crying the same way anymore. The sharp panic was gone, replaced with something slower, hollow, like her brain hadn't caught up to what just happened. Gregory didn't move at first. He stood there, shoulders stiff, eyes locked on the exit, as if he could reverse it by staring hard enough. He couldn't. No one could. I stayed where I was. Titan sat beside me, close enough that I could feel the heat from his body, still alert but quiet. Controlled. Always controlled. The room started to shift. People weren't watching the scene anymore. They were watching me, not out of curiosity, out of understanding, because now they knew what this was. Not a family issue, not a misunderstanding, a case. Gregory finally moved, slow, unsteady. The posture was still there, years of habit, but the confidence behind it was gone. He stopped a few steps in front of me, close enough to speak without raising his voice, for once. This doesn't have to go any further, he said. Not an order, a request. I didn't answer. He swallowed once, then tried again. I can fix this, he continued. I still have connections, people who owe me favors. Of course he did. That was always his solution. Leverage, control. He gestured vaguely toward the door Bradley had just been taken through. This situation, it can be contained. No, it couldn't, not anymore. Not when federal agents were already in his house. Not when evidence was already logged. Not when the system had already started moving. You just need to talk to the commander. He said, his voice tightening slightly, explained that this was a misunderstanding. I looked at him. Really looked this time. For the first time all night, he didn't look like a general. He looked like someone who just realized rank doesn't apply everywhere. This family, he started. No, I said. One word. Flat, final, how he stopped. Didn't push through it. Because he finally understood something. This wasn't his space anymore. You don't get to use that word right now, I added. His jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. He couldn't. Not with the room watching. Not with the truth already exposed. I'm asking you, he said instead. Quieter now. As your father, there it was. The last card, blood. I let it sit. Didn't respond right away. Because words like that only matter if they still hold weight. Behind him, Chelsea shifted, slowly, like it took effort just to move. Then she crawled forward, not stood, not composed, crawled. Her hand reached out and grabbed the fabric of my pant leg fingers, tightening like she was holding onto something solid for the first time all night. Please, she said, her voice breaking completely. I didn't know. I looked down at her. Mascara smeared, hair out of place, no control left, Real. I thought she stammered. I thought it was just a dog. There it was. The truth she should have understood from the beginning. I was jealous she admitted, barely able to get the words out. You always had something I didn't. I just wanted. She stopped. Because even she didn't know how to finish that sentence. Wanted what? Respect, control, attention. None of those come from stealing something you don't understand. We're sisters, she said, finally gripping tighter. That has to mean something. I let the silence stretch, not to punish her, to make sure she heard what came next. Titan shifted slightly beside me, not moving forward, not reacting, just aware. Always aware. I reached down and placed a hand on his head for a brief second. Steady. Then I looked back at both of them, at what was left of the version of family they believed in. You took Titan, I said. My voice calm, each word clear. Because you thought I was weak. Chelsea shook her head quickly. No, I didn't. Yes, you did, I said. She stopped. Because we both knew it was true. And you thought he was a toy. I continued. Something you could show off. Something you could control. Her grip on my leg loosened slightly, not by choice, by realization. He's not, I said. I paused just long enough for it to land. He's a soldier. No one in the room spoke. No one moved. And I'm his handler, I added. His command. I looked at Gregory, then back at Chelsea. The military doesn't tolerate betrayal, I said, and neither do I. No anger, no raised voice, just fact. Chelsea's hand slipped away completely, not pushed, released, because there was nothing left to hold on to. Gregory didn't speak again, didn't argue, didn't threaten, because for the first time, he had nothing left to use. I gave Titan a light tap. Fuss! He stood immediately, stepping into position at my side, perfectly aligned, ready. I turned, didn't wait for a response, didn't look back. And the room did something I didn't ask for. It moved. People stepped aside, not out of fear, out of respect. A clear path opened all the way to the exit. No one blocked it, no one questioned it, because they understood what they had just seen. Not a confrontation, a correction. The doors opened as I approached. Cool air hit my face, sharp and clean after everything inside. Titan moved with me, silent, precise, exactly where he was supposed to be. Behind us, no shouting, no chasing, just silence. The kind that stays after everything important has already happened. I stepped out into the night, the lights fading behind me, the noise gone, the weight of it all finally settling into something simple. Order restored, not loudly, not dramatically, just correctly. And for the first time all day, everything was exactly where it belonged. I didn't slow down until the doors closed behind me and the noise from that room finally stopped following me. The air outside felt different, cleaner, not because anything changed out there, but because everything inside had already been decided. Titan walked beside me, steady, silent, exactly where he was supposed to be. No tension, no leftover aggression, just control. That's the part people never understand. They think loyalty is emotional. It's not. It's structural. I kept walking, letting the distance build between me and that building, between me and everything that just collapsed inside it. I didn't feel like I won. That's what people expect, right? Some kind of rush, some sense of victory. There wasn't any. I didn't win anything. I just stopped letting the wrong people define what loyalty meant. That's it. Chelsea thought loyalty meant access. We're sisters, so I get to take what's yours. Gregory thought loyalty meant obedience. I raised you so you follow my rules no matter what. They both used the same word. Neither of them understood it. Titan did, and he never said a word. I glanced down at him briefly as we reached the parking lot. He didn't look back. Didn't need to. He already knew where he stood. That's what clarity looks like. No guessing, no negotiation, no emotional bargaining, just position. People complicate loyalty because they tie it to feelings. They think if something feels strong, it must be real. It's not. I've seen people claim loyalty while lying to your face. I've seen people demand loyalty while undermining you behind your back. I've seen people use family like it's a contract you didn't sign. That's not loyalty. That's leverage. And leverage always comes with conditions. Titan doesn't operate on conditions. He operates on command. That doesn't make him controlled. It makes him reliable. There's a difference. I reached my car and paused for a second before unlocking it, letting that thought sit. Most people don't want loyalty. They want control disguised as loyalty. They want you available when they need you, quiet when they don't, and obedient when it matters to them. And if you step outside that, you're the problem. You're difficult. You've changed. No, you just stopped playing along. I opened the car door but didn't get in yet, because this is the part no one tells you. Loyalty is easy when everything benefits you. It's tested when it doesn't. Chelsea didn't want Titan because she respected what he was. She wanted him because of what he looked like standing next to her. Status, image, control. The second he didn't perform for her, he became defective. That tells you everything you need to know. If someone only values you when you're useful to them, they don't value you. If someone only supports you when it's convenient, they're not loyal, they're strategic. And strategy isn't the same thing. I got into the car, started the engine, but didn't pull out yet. Titan settled into position beside me without needing a command. He didn't check the space, didn't hesitate, because he trusts the structure. That's what loyalty is built on. Not emotion, not words, consistency, clarity, repetition over time. People don't like that answer. It's not dramatic enough. It doesn't sound deep, but it works. Every time. I've seen people stay in the wrong situations because they think loyalty means endurance. It doesn't. Staying in a place where you're disrespected isn't loyalty. It's tolerance. And tolerance has a breaking point. You don't get extra credit for letting people walk over you. You just get used. I shifted the car into drive, pulling out slowly, headlights cutting through the dark road ahead. If someone only respects you when you're useful, I said quietly. More to the idea than anything else, they don't respect you. Simple, clear, no room to misinterpret it. Titan didn't react. He didn't need to. He already operates in that space. Respect is built into the structure, not negotiated after the fact. I drove in silence for a while, letting the road do what it does, keep things moving forward, whether you're ready or not. Because that's another thing people get wrong. They think loyalty means holding on to everything. It doesn't. Sometimes loyalty means letting go of the wrong things so you can protect what actually matters. People, values, standards, not names, not titles, not history. History explains where you came from. It doesn't decide where you stay. I've seen people stay loyal to environments that destroy them, jobs, families, relationships, all because they think leaving means failure. It doesn't. Sometimes leaving is the most accurate decision you can make, because loyalty without respect is just a slow loss. I took a turn, the city lights coming into view ahead. Normal life, unaware, uninvolved. That's the thing about situations like tonight. They feel huge when you're in them. Then you step outside and the world keeps moving like nothing happened. Because for most people, nothing did. But for you, everything changed. And if you handle it right, it changes in your favor. I glanced at Titan again for a second. Still steady, still exactly where he needed to be. Loyalty doesn't beg, I said under my breath. It doesn't chase. It doesn't negotiate. It shows up, consistently, correctly, without needing to be reminded. That's how you measure it. Not by what people say, by what they do, especially when it costs them something. If it only shows up when it's easy, it's not loyalty, it's convenience. And convenience disappears the second things get uncomfortable. Loyalty doesn't. That's how you know the difference. I kept driving the road, opening up ahead, no traffic, no noise, just space, clean, simple, controlled. Exactly how I like it. Because once you understand what loyalty actually looks like, you stop accepting cheap versions of it. And once you stop accepting it, people either adjust or they disappear. Either way, you're better off. Titan stayed quiet beside me, but the way people moved out of our path told me everything I needed to know. No one said anything as we walked. They didn't need to. You can feel when control shifts in a room. It doesn't come with noise, it comes with space. And people were giving it to me without being told. That's the part most people miss. They think control looks loud. It doesn't. It looks like this. I stepped off the curb and waited for traffic to clear, not rushing, not looking back, just letting the moment settle into something usable. Because moments like that, if you handle them right, they don't end when you leave the room. They follow you, not emotionally, structurally. Chelsea thought she was in control when she grabbed the leash. Gregory thought he was in control when he pulled out paperwork. Bradley thought he was in control when he started making threats. They all made the same mistake. They reacted too early, And once you react without understanding the full situation, you're no longer in control of it. You're just participating. I cross the street, Titan matching my pace, without needing direction. People think staying calm means you're passive, that you're not doing anything, that you're losing. That's not what's happening. What's actually happening is this. You're buying time, and time is the one thing most people waste when they panic. Chelsea needed a reaction from me. That's how she wins, by pulling you into her version of the situation. Loud, emotional, immediate. If I had argued with her at that table, she would have controlled the outcome, because she's better at chaos than I am. So I didn't play. That's the first rule. If someone is trying to pull you into a situation where they're strongest, don't go. Simple. But most people don't do that. They take the bait. They respond immediately. They try to prove something. And the second you start proving, you've already lost positioning. I reached my car and paused again, resting my hand on the door for a second before opening it. Because this is where people get uncomfortable. They think if they don't react, they'll be seen as weak. They won't. They'll be seen as unpredictable. And that's where the advantage is. Gregory expected resistance, argument, emotion. That's what he knows how to manage. That's what he's built his authority on. What he didn't expect was silence, calm, precision. He came in ready to control a situation. He left trying to understand it. That's the shift. You don't overpower people like that. You outposition them. I got into the car, Titan stepping in without hesitation, settling immediately like he'd done it 1,000 times. Because he had. Repetition builds reliability. Same with behavior. I started the engine but didn't drive yet, because this part matters. Most people think staying calm means doing nothing. It doesn't. It means delaying your reaction until it actually matters. That's different. Very different. There are 3 things I follow, every time, no exceptions. First, don't react immediately. I don't care how emotional the situation is. I don't care how personal it feels. Delay. Because the first reaction is almost always wrong. It's emotional. And emotional responses are predictable. Predictable means controllable. Second, observe before you act. People reveal everything when they think they're in control. Chelsea told me exactly what she thought Titan was. Gregory showed me exactly how far he was willing to go. Bradley exposed exactly what he was hiding. I didn't force any of that. I let them show it. That's how you gather leverage without asking for it. Third, act once. Decisively. No hesitation. No repetition. No over-explaining. One move. Clean. Final. Most people make 10 emotional moves trying to fix one situation. You only need one if it's the right one. I pulled out slowly, headlights cutting through the road ahead. Because once you act, you don't second-guess it. That's another mistake people make. They hesitate after the fact. They overthink. They try to adjust mid-execution. That's how you lose control again. You commit, then you move forward. Always forward. I drove in silence for a bit, letting the rhythm of the road settle everything into place. Because here's the reality most people don't want to hear. You don't win by being louder. You don't win by reacting faster. You win by being right and patient enough to let it unfold. That's it. There's no shortcut around that. People who react fast feel powerful in the moment, but they burn through their options early, then they're stuck. People who stay calm, they build options. They expand the situation. They let the other person make mistakes. And mistakes are where leverage comes from. I've seen people lose careers because they reacted to one comment. Lose relationships because they responded emotionally in one moment. Lose opportunities because they couldn't wait. All avoidable. If they had just paused. 5 seconds, 10, long enough to think. That's all it takes. I made a turn, the road opening up again, quiet, empty, exactly how I like it. Control isn't force, I said under my breath. It never has been. It's timing, it's positioning. It's knowing when to move, and more importantly, when not to. Titan shifted slightly beside me, adjusting his position with the motion of the car, then settled again. No stress, no confusion, because everything about his world is clear. Command, response, outcome. That's it. No guessing, no emotion, just execution. People could learn a lot from that. You don't need to react to everything I said quietly. Most things don't deserve your reaction. They deserve your observation. And once you see them clearly, you decide if they deserve your action. Not before. Never before. I kept driving, the city lights stretching out ahead, steady and predictable. Because once you understand this, once you really understand it, you stop getting pulled into situations you don't control. You stop wasting energy on things that don't matter. You stop reacting. And when you stop reacting, you start deciding. That's the difference. And once you feel it, you don't go back. I didn't look back at that building because I already knew nothing inside it belonged to me anymore. Not the people, not the name, not the version of family they kept trying to sell like it was something I owed them. Titan moved beside me, steady as always, no hesitation, no confusion. He didn't need closure. That's another thing people get wrong. They think you need a final conversation, a clean ending, some kind of agreement where everyone understands what happened. You don't. Closure isn't something they give you. It's something you decide. And I already had mine. I drove for a while without turning the radio on, letting the silence do what it's supposed to do, clear out the noise that doesn't belong. Because once everything settles, you start seeing things exactly as they are. Not how you want them to be, not how they told you they were, just what they actually are. I used to think family meant safety, that no matter what happened, there was a baseline you couldn't fall below. I was wrong. Family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by behavior. And once you see that clearly, you can't unsee it. Gregory never cared about connection. He cared about control, structure, obedience. If you fit into that system, you were family. If you didn't, you were a problem to be corrected. That's not support. That's management. Chelsea was different, but not better. She didn't want control in the same way. She wanted validation, attention, status. And if you had something she didn't, she took it. Not because she needed it, because she couldn't stand you having it. That's not love. That's competition. And competition doesn't belong in a place that's supposed to be safe. I stopped at a red light, hands resting lightly on the wheel, watching the empty intersection ahead. Because this is the part people struggle with. They want to keep calling it family because it sounds better, it feels better, it makes staying easier. But words don't change reality. Calling something safe doesn't make it safe. Calling something loyalty doesn't make it real. Calling someone family doesn't mean they act like it. And once you accept that, everything shifts. You're allowed to outgrow people, I said quietly. Even if you share their last name. That's the part no one tells you. They tell you to stay, to forgive, to understand, to keep the peace. They don't tell you what it costs. Staying in a place where you're constantly disrespected doesn't make you strong. It makes you smaller, over time, piece by piece, until you don't recognize yourself anymore. I've seen people do that. Stay in relationships where they're treated like an option. Stay in families where they're only valued when they're useful. Stay in environments that slowly strip away everything that makes them, all in the name of loyalty. That's not loyalty, that's survival, and survival isn't supposed to be permanent. The light turned green. I didn't rush forward, just eased into motion like everything else tonight. Controlled, intentional, because once you decide something, you don't second guess it. That's another trap. People make the right decision, then spend weeks questioning it, looking back, replaying it, trying to find a version where it ends differently. It doesn't. Not if the structure was wrong from the beginning. Gregory wasn't going to change. Chelsea wasn't going to suddenly understand. Bradley, he already got his outcome. Nothing in that system was built to support me. It was built to use me. And once I saw that, there was nothing left to fix. Respect is the minimum requirement for access, I said under my breath. Not history, not blood, not shared experiences. Respect. If someone can't give you that, they don't get access to you. It's that simple. People complicate it because they don't want to enforce it. Because enforcing it means losing people. But here's the reality. You're not losing the right people. You're losing the ones who depended on you, not having boundaries. That's the difference. Titan shifted slightly as I made another turn, adjusting without breaking position. Always aligned, always present, never crossing the line unless told. That's structure. That's respect. And it goes both ways. I don't expect loyalty from him without giving clarity in return. That's another thing people miss. You don't get to demand respect if you don't operate with it. You don't get to ask for loyalty if you're inconsistent. You don't get to control people and call it care. That's not how it works. And deep down, most people know that. They just don't want to admit it. Because admitting it means changing. And changing means losing the version of yourself that benefited from the imbalance. I drove past a stretch of quiet houses, lights off, everything calm, everything normal. That's what people want. Not drama. Not conflict. Just stability. But real stability doesn't come from pretending everything's fine. It comes from removing what isn't. Even if it's uncomfortable, even if it costs you relationships, even if it forces you to stand alone for a while. Because alone is still better than being surrounded by people who don't respect you. Every time. I slowed as I pulled into my street, the familiar layout coming into view, steady, predictable mine. No expectations, no pressure, just space. I parked, turned the engine off, and sat there for a second, not thinking, not replaying, just still. Because for the first time in a long time, there was nothing left to figure out. I knew exactly where I stood, and more importantly, where I didn't. I didn't lose a family tonight, I said quietly. Titan stayed still beside me, calm, grounded, exactly where he needed to be. I lost an illusion, and that's a trade I'd make every time.
Final note. This story is a work of fiction, but the valuable lessons we discuss are entirely real and continue to happen to many people every day. If this style isn't for you, that's perfectly okay. Please feel free to look for other content that better suits your needs.